through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. Over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. Under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
All right, so yes, that's good. All right, family. So real quick, is the mic? All right, so real quick, let's jump into a few things. Let's go into a few things. See, we got some family up. Shout out to Kevo for sharing the stream. Yo, that's a bar right there. The quick fast class. The quick fast class. That's an entendre right there. That's smooth right there. The quick fast class. All right, so really quick, right? Well, not really quick, because we probably be here for a second. Y'all know that if I had planned, you know what I'm saying, to do a fast, we would be going to the Gold Book. We would be going to the Gold Book. Right, so if y'all don't have the Gold Book, you can go to Amazon and get the Gold Book. In the Gold Book, we have the longer 40-day, 120-day fast, right? 40-day, 120-day, right? But over the years, I had developed, and I talk about this in the new book. Let me show y'all the new book. There's a new book. As usual, y'all know there's always a new book. Let me show y'all the new book. Okay, the new book is not up yet. It'll be up in a second. It'll be up in a second. It's not up just yet. Let me see if I can find something that may make sense. Okay, here we go. And if y'all have any questions from the video yesterday, last night, I know some of y'all probably haven't even seen that video, but if you saw the video last night with Chef Will and I, and you have any questions, drop those in the chat real quick or drop those in the comment section and I will definitely get to them. Right? Let me see if I can pull up the screenshot so y'all can see. Okay, boom. Here we go. All right, so here is the new book that's out. Right? Now, let me tell y'all how this conversation came about. While talking to one of my bros, while talking to Chef Will, he asked me to jump on a fast with him, and he was asking me some questions about some things like some teas and just some little stuff. And I said, it's funny you asking me that because, you know, that's in my book. Now, how did it get into the book? Over the years, I had been developing this little thing, you know, that just came about from conversation. You know, I was on the phone with my guy from Philly, and I was doing what I do normally, and he was like, "Oh, you on your monk joint right now. You on your monk joint right now." And so I kept that and put it in my back pocket. So, you know, anytime I kind of like retreat from the world, you know what I'm saying, maybe come off of social media for a few days or come off the phone or switch up my diet, you know, just spur of the moment, you know, I call that my monk retreat, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and so over the years, it kind of formalized and congealed into, you know, a thing that I do, like, you know what I'm saying? So when Will was asking me to jump on a fast with him, I was like, or asking me questions, I was like, well, kind of, you know, I talk about all that in the book. So, you know, anyway, long story short, that's what we're doing. And the monk fast differs from the 40-day fast in a lot of ways. There's no set time for it, right? So you can go on a monk fast anywhere from 8 hours to, you know, 7 days, 10 days, you know what I'm saying? It's a short-term fast, spur of the moment. Like we were discussing last night, the main difference, and maybe some people would say the only difference between a cleanse and a fast is that a cleanse is something you do for your body. A fast is something you do for the spirit, for the mind, for your focus, right? So there's no way, though, because of how the body and the mind are connected, there's no way to do one without benefiting the other. It's just the specific direction of your focus. If your focus is on having your bowel movements and this, that, and the other, that would be a cleanse, right? If your focus is on your emotions, your mind, or setting goals and accomplishing whatever, then that would be more of a fast. So when we look in our theological text and we see some of the saints and the messengers and, you know, some of those things doing fast, it was for the mental. It was for the mental. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. Social media fast. You have to do that. You have to come up off of social media, all of those types of things. So now, what exactly am I doing? Right? What exactly am I doing? So I'm just going now. Here's what I'm using. Here's my cheat code. Let me see if y'all can see this clearly. Right? I don't know if y'all can see that clearly. Right? It says Organic Girl Super Greens. Organic Girl Super Greens. The greens have all been, like prepared and washed 3 times. Right? And they put all that on the cover so okay, these greens all been washed 3 times, etc., etc. So people usually use these for juicing. You'll see a lot of juicing places that use these. Normally in the supermarket, these are between $5. They're like between $4.99 and $6.99. Yeah. But if you notice, you see my little reduced tag right there for $2.70, right? I got the ketchup, I got the ball on a budget. I got the 5 little ones. I got a ball on a budget. So I go and I wait till they drop on sale, and then I grab all of them off the rack. So, it's budget, it's budget friendly. And they have other brands. They have other brands. So there are other brands with a lower price margin. You know what I'm saying? A lower price margin. But if you are, they're pretty inexpensive, period, especially if you are replacing meals with them, right? If you're replacing a meal, $5 for a meal is pretty reasonable, right? It's pretty reasonable. I know sometimes the budget can even be tighter, but it's pretty reasonable, $5 for a meal. But $3, you cooking. You cooking at $3, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times I get questions about the pricing of doing anything plant-based. And immediately off the back, I know that those are people that are not familiar with plant-based culture, because plant-based culture is super budget friendly. You get a whole bag of lentils for $2, right? And a bag of dry lentils the family can eat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's what's expensive that goes on your meal is the meat. And if meat replacements, you know what I'm saying? Meat and meat replacements. And now those things have went through the roof, because they're selling like a chicken patty, a pack of chicken patties or a pack of burgers, 3 for $10 or 4 for $20 or whatever the case may be. So vegan has caught up to the pricing of regular meat. Those meat replacements have caught up to the prices of. So that's what's expensive on your plate. And then, dressing the meat or the meat replacement, because it's not just a matter of having meat. You want to be able to dress your meat. And this is very, we in Paul's country right now. This is crazy. We deep in the woods right now. We deep in the woods right now. It's too early. My Paul's radar is not, you know what I'm saying? So pardon me if but but vegetables are relatively inexpensive, period. Your grains can get a little costly, you know what I'm saying? But on this fast, I'm not doing anything except the greens and the teas. That's all I'm doing. Will, on the other hand, is going a little bit more, Will is going on a dry fast, or not necessarily a dry fast, but he's going just liquids. So he's just having juices and teas. I'm not really doing the juicing so much, so I'm eating my greens, right? I could say that I'm going on like a juicing fast, juices and teas, but I'm going to juicing is cumbersome for me. I have juice machines in the kitchen, you know what I'm saying? but juicing just it's work, and I don't, my time is structured, so I rather just eat my greens out of the box like potato chips. Right? It's easier for me. So that's what I'm doing. Um, intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting was started, at least as far as I know, by Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad was the first person that I know in terms of my research that promoted the idea of intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting is just taking breaks. Now, we have incorporated that into our regular style of eating, right? What we do regularly is called a 13 and 7 diet program, right? That is our staple. So that's a part of our culture. That's a part of our religion. That's a part of how we socialize, how we just do things every day. And basically with the 13 and 7, right, you have 7 hours to eat and 13 hours off. 13 hours off puts you into the window of autophagy, right? So every night, your body gets a chance to recover, right? Just that simple. Every night you get a chance to recover. 13 hours allows you to build up enough melanin concentrating hormone to initiate autophagy. And melanin concentrating Melanin concentrating hormone is the initiator of your appetite and autophagy. Autophagy is the process where your body recycles its own proteins. So when you look at the macros, your body does have a process of getting to, feeding itself, right? So you have carbs, you have fats, you have protein. Your body will recycle fats for carbohydrates, right? Your body will also recycle protein if you go too long without having any. That's called autophagy. And that is a part of, now, if y'all are in our class, which we may have a class later on today, right? Melanin is anabolic. We teach that in our 15-week course, right? But autophagy is stimulated by the melanin system, the pigment system. Melanin concentrating hormone, not to be confused with melanin stimulating hormone, right? So again, intermittent fasting is where you just, maybe a couple hours out the day, or maybe one day out of the week, or maybe every other day. Typically with intermittent fasting, though, the one thing is you want to have a rhythm to it, right? You want to have a rhythm to it, to where you say, on Tuesday and Thursday, I don't eat, or, I'm eating every 5 hours, right? When you have a rhythm to something, that rhythm is called the frequency, right? And so that's something also that we talk about in the new book, right? If you see the bottom of the book cover, it says placebo frequency. We discuss frequency quite a bit in the new book because it is one of those things that I feel like frequency is the new chakra. Frequency is the new chakras. And in fact, a lot of people that do the, the chakra talk, they use the term frequency. And I realize that 99% of the people using the term frequency don't know what frequency means. Right? So we need to address frequency because it's all over the health space, right? But frequency literally means how often something happens. How often something happens. Frequency is not like a beam of light. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm on the frequency. Like frequency is how often something happens, right? So intermittent fasting particularly usually has a frequency, right? So like for us, we're eating every 7 hours. That is the frequency we're on, or not every 7 hours, but 7 hours a day. That's the frequency we're on normally. So yeah, intermittent fasting is really good for allowing your body, especially your microbiome, to do its thing. That's crucial. Water fast, right? Water fast is close to a dry fast. Water fast is hardcore. Water fast is hardcore. And you start to get dangerous with some of these fasts. You start to go down danger road. So I've seen, some nasty work on the internet. People have sent me some nasty work on the internet because we live in an era now where it's not enough for people to put stuff onto the internet. People need to live, they need to go live. And even though I'm going live right now, I'm very much in a controlled setting, right? This is my office/classroom, and I'm not doing anything crazy in here to where, I can't control what is being seen or what, the streaming universe is where the camera kind of follows them out into uncontrolled settings. That's the whole difference between doing a live stream and being a streamer, right? A streamer, the cameras follow them wherever they go, as opposed to doing a live stream where you just kind of in your set place, your living room, your office, your wherever, and you're going live, right? A streamer, that camera's following them to their bedroom. They playing video games on it. They watching the game. It's following them into the car where they go get wherever. And I've seen some folks try to stream hardcore fast, dry fast, water fast, and usually it ends with them needing hospital care. It usually ends with them needing hospital care. Now, I've noticed the trend, so I feel like they purposely do that because anything that's dangerous or somebody gets injured or whatever the case, that usually results in more followers. That usually results in more subscribers. So because their goal is not to get healthy, it's not to teach health, it's not to inform people, their goal is to get more subscribers by any means necessary. Malcolm X style. Their goal is to get more subscribers. Yo, Jake Paul is live streaming with his face looking like the Elephant Man after the AJ, like by any means necessary. They're getting more subscribers. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what we do. That's not what we do. You know what I'm saying? What we do, we're trying to educate and elevate. Educate and elevate folks, and provide a platform for your personal edification, right? I've always been against just publicly laying out that people should go on crazy, hardcore fast. This is one of the things that, Dr. Africa and I had beef about. May he rest in greatness. He thought, because I'm the founder of the 40-day fruit fast. A lot of people have stolen the fast and ran around and did other things with it, but he didn't like all the attention that I was getting with the 40-day fast. And he was telling people that it's a fake fast and don't listen to Inky, and a real fast is where you don't have any food or any water or any drink, and that's the only fast people should be doing, and blah, blah, blah. That's dangerous. I'm going to be honest. It was dangerous. So we didn't see eye to eye on that. And Dr. Africa was very vocal about that. But my thing is that, and the way we developed the 40-day fast, which also later on became known as the 120-day fast when we stretched it out. But you basically slowly walk yourself into a more stringent fast, right? That's what the whole 40-day process originally was. It was five phases, 8 days each, and every 8 days you would get to a more stringent fast, where by the time you get to the end, it's just juice. You know, you're just having juice once or twice a day, right? Because you need to walk into those fasts and then slowly walk yourself out of them, right? So, but you can't just cold turkey, just stop eating and go, like, you know what I'm saying? Your body is too much. For most people, there are some people who are incredibly resilient, whether they've built that resilience from practicing aesthetics over time, or, you know, they just built that way. Some people just are, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, it's dangerous, and I wouldn't suggest people going like cold turkey from food. Like, that is a little crazy, right? So have some sustenance, you know, have something that you can, you know, take your time, and right. So like I said, right now what we're doing with the monk fast is I'm just eating greens, right? Dry, out of the box, right out of the box or out of the bag, because they have bags with greens as well. And you could just grab a bag. The bags are usually a little less expensive, right? The bags are usually less greens, and they're usually less expensive. But the bags are typically the bags are for cooking, right? They're cooking. These boxes are packaged. Now you can do whatever you want with your greens once you buy them. Once you buy them, they're yours. Like when you ask late, you know, I don't know about now, but back in the days, we used to make fun, you know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't your hair. That ain't your hair. Like, I bought it. I got the receipt. So once you have the receipt for your, you know, once you buy the greens, then your greens, you do whatever you want with them. But typically the way they're packaged, the greens in the boxes like those are for juicing, and the greens that come in the bag are usually for cooking. And the difference is obviously just the process, right? When they come in the box, usually they have already been washed. They've already been washed. So you can put those right into the juicer, or just run them through a light rinse. The ones in the bag are typically unwashed, or I would treat them as unwashed. So you need to kind of soak them and wash them and rinse them before you do anything with them, right? So there's intermittent fast, water fast, and then low glycemic, right? Low glycemic, and we also kind of discussed dry fasting, right? With just going with nothing, just air. Right? Saliva. But the low glycemic is where you just focus on like a low carbohydrate, right? Low carbohydrate, right? Basically, you go on protein, right? You basically go on protein with low glycemic. And the reason why I say you just basically go on protein is because I'm not really a big fan of most of the low glycemic indexes out there. There's a lot of lists of foods that are on the low glycemic or diabetic friendly list. And some of those lists are crazy. Some of those lists are insane. They tell you that, you know, like Frosted Flake cereal is healthier than, like, I don't know. It gets crazy. Those lists get crazy. So the spirit of what the lists are to communicate is low carbohydrate. Again, I just have to remind folks, when we violate carbohydrates, that we are violating photosynthesis. we are violating the natural design of the human body. Your body was designed to run off of carbohydrates. Literally, that's what photosynthesis is. Photosynthesis is the process of how nature creates carbohydrates for you. Carbohydrates is how your body produces electricity, right? So low carbohydrate is low electricity. Just saying. Low carbohydrate is low electricity. When your body runs low electricity, you run the risk of, in the short term, it's called, mood swings and blah, blah, blah. Mood swings, long term, is called mental illness. I just want y'all to understand that. Okay. If you're moody and cranky in a short period of time, a day, 2 days, 3 days, oh, something's up. You treat it that way. But if your moodiness and your crankiness extend weeks, months, etc., it's called mental illness, right? And messing with your body's sugar is one of the fastest ways to become mentally unstable. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is check the record. Diabetes is associated with almost every form of mental illness, period. And the reason being is because the body's not able to process sugar, carbohydrates smoothly, regularly, and the brain is the gas guzzler when it comes to processing sugars, metabolizing sugars, and producing electricity. Period. Per pound, your brain uses the most sugar than any other thing in your body. So anytime you mess with carbohydrates, you are messing with your neurochemistry, right? So that is also something that you need to walk into slowly. When I say walk into, what I mean is gradually, so that your body learns how to change and rearrange and do some other things. One of the good things, and I'm not a keto fan, but one of the good things about the keto community is over the years of people crashing out, they have developed some protocols to where, they give, they like to, I think it's like a 2-week window now. They warn people, the first 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, it's going to be rough. Here's plan B, here's plan C, so that way they can take some of the edge off of your process of, changing how your body, your body's biochemical rhythms or your body's biochemical frequencies. Right. All right. So we got that hopefully out the way. Right. See how many people want to jump on the fast with us. I don't know, because people be frauding. They might say they want to do it and they might not do it. They might not do it. So listen, y'all can go to Amazon. Y'all can go to Amazon now, I believe, and get that book. All right, social media fasting. People take this for a joke, right? But social media fasting is serious, right? Social media fasting is serious. It's not just social media fasting, but, and I talk about this more in depth in the book. You have to take a break from other people's thoughts entering your mind, period. That's why monks, traditionally, they would go, like on, pilgrimage, or they would go up into the mountains, and, people in spiritual pursuits, they take time for themselves, whether it's a weekend, a week, a month, a year, and live in seclusion. The purpose of living in seclusion is so that you don't have other people's thoughts entering into your mind, right? There's other things too, like, worry, anxiety, depression, and you're worried about what somebody else is doing, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your mom, your this, your that. When you go into seclusion, you remove yourself from all those things. Everybody got to fend for themselves. I'll see y'all in 3 days, or I'll see y'all in 6 days, or I'll see y'all in a year, whenever I come back from seclusion. So back when I was a teenager and I was heavy into Eastern philosophy and studying those, I just wanted to practice some things. And I realized that, you can do some of those things at the house to an extent, right? To an extent, so I take time for that. And I wouldn't be able to write without being able to do that. And I incorporated some of those things back in the days into my music practice, because being a rapper, right? Being a rapper, or in pursuit of being a rapper, when you're writing your songs, you around other people writing songs, and you will steal somebody's lyrics, not on purpose. But when you're constantly writing, anybody whose ideas come into your space, it's gonna come out somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So even now, because I write so prolifically, I am the most prolific health writer of all times at this point. But yeah, when I have some of my brothers that come up and be like, yo, I got an idea I want to run past you, I'll be like, nope. Don't tell me your idea. Don't tell me nothing about your idea. And don't tell nobody else. Keep that to yourself until it comes to fruition. So that way you can see that thing through and it doesn't bleed into anything else than anybody else has going on. Right. So there's a lot of reasons why you would go into seclusion. You know what I'm saying? But again, it is emotional, spiritual, mental, and it is chemical. It is chemical, right? It is chemical. Your neurochemistry, your dopamine, your norepinephrine, your adrenaline, all of those things have an opportunity to reset, when you provide yourself with some clarity. And in the social media era, one of the biggest travesties of our time is that people don't spend money and they don't spend time studying their body. So they don't understand it. People don't understand AI because they don't understand themselves. But Robert O. Becker, he's a prophet at this point. I've already deified Dr. Sebi, right? These were messengers. These men were messengers. They came with the message, hey, the human body's electric. The human body's electric. And when you fully get that into your soul, when you get that into your soul, a lot of people know it at a surface level. Oh yeah, the human body, electric, mitochondria, but they don't really understand what that means at its depths. And so they don't understand how there's a reason why people have lines. You know what I'm saying? Like we thought it was just Jordans, but now we see when a new Android phone comes out, a Samsung or Google or iPhone comes out, people are, the lines are, people stay online for 2 days for these things waiting. And I don't mean on the internet online, like standing out in the rain online to get one of the new phones or whatever, because these electronics become an extension of yourself. They become an extension of you. When you got to go to work in the morning or you got to go to school in the morning and you can't find your iPad, you can't find your phone, you lose it. It's way different than, I can't find my keys. Like, you can't find your phone. It's crazy, because a phone has become a receptacle for your mind. You've outsourced a part of your spirit, your mind. You're physically attached to these devices. And I'm not going to say anything is wrong with that per se. But what I am going to say is that people that really understand your body a lot deeper than you do have been paid to design applications based on the symbiotic nature of people and devices. So this is how Instagram, TikTok, I wouldn't say YouTube as much, but YouTube has gotten into it the last few years with the short videos. But all of these social media apps, they have learned how to tap into your norepinephrine and your dopamine. Now, y'all know I'm looking around, so that means y'all know we got a book on it. We talk a good bit about that in the Dope Game book, right? The Dope Game is not about the streets. The Dope Game is about dopamine, right? Dopamine and norepinephrine in your brain are converted into neuromelanin. So anytime you hear somebody discuss dopamine, they're talking about your neuromelanin system. Anytime you hear anybody talk about adrenaline hormones or norepinephrine, they're talking about your melanin system. It is a way that our scientific institutions in their inception, which was heavily segregated and racist, they could discuss pigment and certain things without discussing pigment, right? They could discuss pigment without discussing pigment. And so you won't always hear melanin, right? You won't always hear pigment. But it's important to understand that social media keeps people addicted through your pigment system, because your pigment system extends to your behavioral system, your reward system, your sleep and wake cycle, your mood, your emotions, a wide variety of other things social media companies have access to by controlling dopamine, norepinephrine, and neuromelanin, right? So yeah, it's good to fast. It's good to fast and allow your body to disconnect, disconnect from the addiction to these different things. And a lot of people have that addiction at different levels, right? What else we got here? Oh, what are the T's? Okay, all right. So we moving. We are moving. Hold on, let me find this. Let me open up the actual Loveonometry. Let me open up the Loveonometry book. Yeah, let me open up the Loveonometry book. All right, so for the morning, right? For the morning, there are 3 supermarket types of tea that I suggest, right? Now, obviously, your personal health and conditioning, you want to, check before you whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because some of these teas are high caffeine. Some of these teas are high caffeine, so you got to be careful, right? But you have yerba mate in the morning on the wake up, right? You have yerba mate. you have green tea, and then you have matcha, right? Now, for the people who are in the know, they're going to say, Inky, matcha is green tea. Why you put matcha and green tea? And then I'll respond to them and say, you clearly are reading that off the internet. Because yes, while on paper, it is true that matcha is green tea. In real life, matcha is way down there and green tea is way down there. Matcha, I tell people, is like liquid cocaine. Matcha is crazy. Yeah, and matcha, you can get matcha. Back in the days when my dad first started taking me to the herbal spaces in Chinatown, I didn't know that. I thought green tea was green tea. I thought green tea was just green tea. And he would take me to some places, and there's some places where they have, I'm talking about, they might have 300 variations, different types of green tea. Like how you would, they got like 300 different types of green tea. It's just all different variations. And the matcha is usually the strongest type of green tea that there is. So you can stay awake for a couple of days on matcha, right? Green tea is not going to do that to you, right? So, but there are people, again, that in different spaces in their life, they have different days. You don't know what a person's day looks like. You don't know what a person's addictions look like. So matcha is very good for people transitioning from other stimulants. We are in a world where people's respiratory system has become uncoupled from their digestive system, and people are chronically low energy. So because they have a chronically low energy output, 1 hour energy drinks turned into a phenomenon. And then you got Monster and everybody else that follows suit. So people are into energy drinks. People are into coffees, and people are into recreational drugs and all kinds of other things. Addies, right? Adderalls and all kinds of other stuff to stay awake longer and then try to keep themselves up and alert. So I find that the matcha is good for those people. It's good for those people, to come off of those things and be able to have something that's nutritious, something that's healthy, relatively safe, and they can kind of, wean themselves off of all of those other things, all of those energy drinks and stimulants and powders and pills and whatever else they got going on. They can go to the matcha. For John Q. Public, you can get the supermarket brand green tea and you lit. You good. You know what I'm saying? If you're not used to a whole bunch of stimulants and all that, regular good old green tea would be straight for you. Yeah, don't get decaffeinated green tea, because then you wasted your money. Get regular green tea. You're good. Caffeine levels are present, but minimal. So you have a nice, sustained, but you're not looking like Michael Jackson Thriller, right? If you're not used to stimulants and you drink that matcha, you might be looking like Michael Jackson Thriller, and you may be up all night cussing me out like Inky told me to drink this. But listen, that's why these teas are listed for the morning time, right? Yerba mate, green tea, matcha. What else? Midday, right? Midday. Now this is when you seen. This is when you seen, right? In the morning, it's unseen. Midday, seen, right? This is when you out and about. You want to be at your best, right? So at this point, it's oolong tea, it's peppermint tea, and of course, we have the classical ginger tea, right? And ginger tea, you know, nowadays, ginger tea is usually coupled with turmeric, right? So ginger tea / turmeric, right? The ginger tea and the peppermint tea are both really good for digestion, right? And the middle part of the day, going back to the 13 and 7 rule, right, where we focus all of our eating in the middle of the day, you want to have something that you're drinking that helps the digestive process, that helps stimulate the microbiome, helps stimulate the GLP-1 action, all of those different things that are going on in your digestive system throughout the day to prepare your body for regeneration later on that night, right? When you lay down, you just want to just black out. You want to go right to sleep. And, you know, you want to have a good night's sleep. You want to have REM sleep, lucid dreaming, autophagy, all that happening overnight, right? So a lot of that depends on how you treat your body throughout the day. And then at the nighttime, we want to go chamomile, right? And chamomile includes, I call them the cousins of chamomile. You know what I'm saying? But they may not, I don't think they're related, but the cousins are like skullcap, valerian root, things like that. You'll see those, you know, chamomile is the flag in the ground. You know what I'm saying? So you go to the supermarket, you will always see chamomile tea, no matter what supermarket you go into. But when you read the box, it may be coupled with skullcap or valerian root, or some of them now have tryptophan or melatonin with them. All of that's cool, right? All of that's cool. Yeah, so chamomile is good for a lot of things. One of the main things is your pancreas, bar none. You know what I'm saying? Chamomile is good for your pancreas because chamomile helps to stimulate GABA, right? And most people know of GABA as a neurotransmitter, right? The neurotransmitter, like the quiet neurotransmitter, the op for the glutamine and the glutamate rather. But also GABA helps your body to process sugar like insulin. In fact, your pancreatic cells, your beta cells, produce GABA as well for that purpose. So GABA has a lot of different things that it does in your body, right? So the pancreas is something that you want to really take care of for your sleep, right? So chamomile is good for that. Lemon balm, same thing, right? Lemon balm, same thing. It's really good for the pancreas. And rooibos tea. Rooibos tea is really good for relaxation as well, right? Rooibos helps your body to balance out calcium with magnesium and just relax the muscles. So those are good teas to have in the nighttime. Rooibos, lemon balm, and chamomile. So you got 3 for the daytime, waking up on the wake up. You got 3 for midday, and then you got 3 for the nighttime, right? And then in the book, I give a nice little short list of the different greens. And I'm sure a lot of you guys will remember A lot of y'all will remember this because I discussed this, the greens in the other. What book was that? Was that the? I think it's in the Autodidact book. I think it's in our skin. Not think. I'm sure it's in our skin series. Yep. Yeah, because we spend a good amount of time in this book going over vitamin A and chlorophyll. And this is where we introduced the Green Man Challenge. That's a fact. So yeah, in this book, we also talk about it and we provide a lot of reference material. So this is the Autodidact book. If you don't have the Autodidact book, you may want to get this. We provide a lot of reference material that is just not everywhere. And I had a co-author. Who is a skin specialist, a nationwide skin specialist. Shout out to Tiffany. So these books are serious. We talked about transepidermal water loss quite a bit. Yeah, we had a lot of different conversations that you may not find in other places. So you might want to check that out as well. Let me see what else we got. Okay. If I water fast, I put something in the water. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. If I water fast, I put something in the water. I'm hoping that's what, Now, listen, I also do the Blue Magic. Y'all know, if y'all been watching for a while, you know, Blue Magic kind of goes everywhere. Blue Magic is our special blend of sea moss, and I add that to my tea all the time. Sometimes I add Blue Magic to my teas. Sometimes I open some of the herbal capsules. I might open 1 capsule or 2 capsules of some herbs and empty that into my tea. So I will add some stuff into my teas. I'm definitely adding stuff into the water. For sure. I like this. I like this right here. That's a nice bar right there. I'm gonna just call you Ink at this point. You know what's crazy? I really, 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 truly understand that life is a process. It's a process, and I had been constipated. And I don't mean like feces. I mean, I wrote my first book in the 90s. And it was in like black and white notebooks by hand. And it was called Deprogramming and Reprogramming Coming Forth by Day. And I sent it out to some publishers. I couldn't get it to nobody wanted to publish it, too controversial at the time. This is 15 years before social media. 10 years before social media, maybe something like that, right? Social media hit big in 2005 when YouTube started, right? But in the 90s, we didn't really have anything like that, and books weren't like, it was just a different universe. And so fast forward, it just sat in my house. When I first met Lord Voldemort, he who should not be named on this video, I met him because he said he knew how to publish his own books, print his own books. And, I paid him a few $100s to do it for me. He didn't do it. I had to wind up chasing him down and putting some pressure on him and all that to figure it out. But ever since I learned how to, print my own books, that's what I started out doing for maybe the first 15 years of my writing. I was doing it myself, maybe 10 years in my house. You know what I'm saying? I had the double-sided printers and the glue and the cutting board and all that, putting together myself. And as it's become easier for me to write, it's become faster. And I just think about it in terms of the time that I had to spend, maybe 15 years where I was writing but not able to release anything. So now that I can almost release a book as fast as I can write one, it seems like for many people that I'm writing at a really, really fast pace, but it's not. It's because I have so many books already written of notes and research that it's not hard for me, because for the most part, I'm just pulling from, years and years and years and years and years and years of being a student. The thing that most men shun being called a student. They don't want to seem like they're underneath another man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm not your student. You know what I'm saying? I'm averse to that. You know what I'm saying? So I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of just notes and information. And now that a lot of my notes have been converted into books, I got books to pull from. I probably got about 60 books that are out of print, that aren't even in print. So those now serve as a resource for me to grab some studies and information from and come back to the table with something new. So it's really simple. But yeah, I like that. Ink Hotep. We gotta put the Hotep on there. Ink Hotep. What are your thoughts on working out during the fast? I know this could be taxing to the body. Instead, I would suggest more internal exercises like meditation, yoga, asanas, etc. I am in total agreement with you. I would just probably add prayer to the list, right? But definitely, I think people need to take a break from working out. Definitely, I think people need to take a break from working out. I'm not sure if everybody's hip, but on Tuesday nights, we do a show called Comedicine, right? Shout out to HJ, shout out to Tanai for the opportunity. I really appreciate what we do over there with Comedicine. I didn't realize we had so many fans till I tried to, till I searched it myself in Twitter. A lot of people really like what we're doing with the podcast. But and I think it's because I'm pretty inconsistent with timing, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that it's somebody else, it provides a specific, like every week, Tuesday, 8:00, boom, you know what I'm saying? Amongst other things, right? But we had the discussion about this. I want to say it was last week or the week before. Well, the week before, I don't think we was on. I was on anyway for the holidays, but it was one of the last few shows that we did. And we were talking about how exercise past a certain point actually reduces your longevity because it puts excess stress on the heart. It puts excess stress on the heart, and people aren't matching their nutrition to the stress load. People are under the idea that more is always better, and it's not. More is not always better. You need time to rest, time to relax, time to recover. Extreme sports, extreme physiques, all of those things have put people into an extreme space to where the health industry is driven by people who are using steroid injections and surgery to make their body look a certain type of way and grow a following of people who want to get those same results. And the whole hustle, the whole scam to it is that you naturally can achieve a body like the person you're following, but the person you're following has had multiple surgeries. They take, 2-3 different injections. They're probably taking GLP-1 now along with testosterone. And, so it's crazy, right? So it's just a extreme space. And so because the scam is the illusion of being natural, you have John Q. Public running their body into the ground, trying to work out like a maniac to get a physique like somebody they're watching on social media, or a group of people they're watching on social media, when that group of people are using pharmaceutical drugs and surgeries to get those aesthetics. So definitely your fast, especially the monk fast, right? The monk fast should be no working out. It should be no working out. No working out. You know what I'm saying? At all. Maybe some calisthenics, calisthenics, but definitely no hardcore weights, no sprinting. And if you're getting in your steps, that's beautiful. Get your steps in, get your calisthenics in, right? Calisthenics in and of themselves are a form of prayer. It is a form of going within, especially if you couple calisthenics to anatomical study and you understand the processes that are going on as you're doing the work. So you can put your mind inside your body as you're doing the work. You can visualize the blood coming into the lungs, pulling the oxygen, carrying the oxygen, the hemoglobin, exchanging with the myoglobin, and the mitochondria, and just all of those different things that we try to provide visuals for. Those visuals are for meditation purposes. Let me give y'all an example. This is for meditation purposes.
Like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, 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 over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within.
AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Right? So in that visual, you get to see the whole entire process of inspiration very quickly. From breathing in, right, to the time that oxygen is infused in the blood, through the heart, through the aorta, from the aorta to the brain, down into the cells where the hemoglobin is transferred to the myoglobin. The myoglobin transfers it to the mitochondria. The mitochondria does its thing, right? Recycling water and ATP. The ATP then comes together with the water and produces light and kinetic energy. So you see the proteins and the microtubules and all of those things. You see that whole process. And I try to not just provide, book information or stuff that, that we write up on the whiteboard, but also things that, people can visualize, so we can stimulate other areas of the brain and other learning processes, so that way people can hold on to and retain the information in a different way, right? Because a part of meditating in certain systems is being able to go within the body. And as I was growing up and I was studying these things, because I was studying these things as a kid and then going into my teenage years, it bothered me that a lot of adults that considered themselves spiritual, even a lot of quote unquote spiritual leaders, right? They would talk a certain way. They'd be like, yeah, we're going to go within and blah, blah, blah. And then when I would get my opportunity to speak to these people, I would ask them questions and they wouldn't know anything about biochemistry. They wouldn't know anything about anatomy. They were saying things like solar plexus and all kinds of foolishness that's not, so I realized that it was fraud. It was fake. It was a lot of misinformation at multiple levels. Even people that were considered to be, spiritual leaders, they had blockages. They could only go, and if you have practices in place, really good practices, they will work if you don't know everything. So you don't have to know everything to get really good results. But the more you know, the better your results are. And the ancient texts often speak of the process of, meditation as going within. And if you don't know what within is, how are you going within? A lot of people think that's just, closing their eyes and analyzing their thoughts. But no, I mean, that's a part of it. But you need to go within. You need to go within. You need to know what's going on with the unseen, right? What's going on with the unseen? How does the unseen become the seen? What is the interface between the unseen and the seen worlds? And so we explore those concepts in depth in the new book. We really go in depth in the new book. Yeah. Talk to him, Paul. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. That's a certified big fact, right? In fact, Since you said something, Paul. Since Paul said something. All right. Uh-oh, wait a minute. I could take this down. Let me take this down. Boop. And let me put this up. Let me put this up. Why are you not doing? Oh, here you go. Bam. Okay. So we official like a ref with a whistle. So we official like a ref with a whistle. We are official like a ref with a whistle. The book is out. The book is officially out. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We are official.
Joe. Joe.
Now, before I go ahead and play that, I just want y'all to understand what y'all are looking at when y'all see that, right? One of the things that I talk about in the book, and I spend a good time, we talk about the unseen and the seen and all of that, but one of the major components of having a discussion of the unseen and the seen is understanding the nature of energy in the human body. And because people don't understand the nature of energy in the human body, evidenced by the fact that heart disease is the #1 killer, evidenced by diabetes, type 2 diabetes being like almost unavoidable for the greater population, evidenced by the fact that diabetes is the largest cause of heart disease. Vitamin E is underappreciated. And because vitamin E is underappreciated, batana oil and what we get from those trees is underappreciated. So when you see this video, right, what you're looking at is what vitamin E actually does, right? And I use the snake for an example because for me, immediately, that's what the vitamin E molecule looked like. So let me show y'all really quick the vitamin E molecule. And y'all might be able to see it through Inky Vision. Y'all might be able to see it through Inky Vision, right? Let me see if we can find, okay, look at this, right? Look at this. This is a great one right here. And I just type it in the search. This is a vitamin E molecule, right? This is a tocopherol, right? This is a tocopherol. And now, y'all know my mind, almost everything goes back to Kemet somehow. You know, in my mind, everything goes back to Kemet somehow. But vitamin E, you know, it took me there because there's 8 types of vitamin E, right? There's 4 types of tocopherols and 4 types of tocotrienols. So immediately, Kamenu, Ogdo, like, you know what I'm saying, Iyunu, that's where my mind goes. 4 sets of twins. Vitamin E is literally 4 sets of twins. You know what I'm saying? And they have this snake kind of molecule, and that's what they do. They actually literally snake in your cell membranes. That's what vitamin E does. Vitamin E moves like a snake throughout your cell membranes, and it eliminates anything that is considered to be an electrophile, right? An electrophile is something that I can't say lives off of electricity, even though that'd be the easiest way to understand it. But there are inanimate toxic chemicals that are considered electrophiles, so that they're not really alive, but they steal electricity, right? So you would consider them a free radical, right? They steal electricity from your cells, and they do that in the cell membrane. And that's extremely toxic, even diabetes inducing, or heart. It is really damaging for the heart. So when you see the video that I did for the song here, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what you see, the snake being used, because obviously the snake's in Kemet, but that's why you see the snake being used as a model of vitamin E, because of how the head of the molecule reminded me of the cobra and his body. And then not just how the molecule looked. Let me see, they don't have no tocotrienols. See, this is what's crazy with even the vitamin E supplement space. It's all tocopherols, right? But there are tocotrienols, which are even better than tocopherols. Yeah, and you see they look similar, right? They look similar, and both of them have that aromatic ring at the head, right? But they slither through the membrane, and that's how they protect all of your cells in your body. So when you see the video, that's what we're doing. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So when you see the video with me just putting snakes, this is the cell membrane right here. This is the cell membrane, and these are the vitamin E. Now in this, I have 2 different types of snakes or ureus from Kemet, right? Representing tocopherols and tocotrienols, and they doing their thing, patrolling the cell membrane, right? But I know some people, they didn't get like what I was doing with the video. Here, I have the actual snake becoming the vitamin E molecule, right? That's what I was trying to show with those scenes.
Yo, me, so naughty. load on me, yeah, oh. Black glow, 3 a.m. blue hue on your skin. Coffee stains, cold on the screen, but your soul in a different scene. Batana drip, sip, slip, nature drip. Head in the clouds, your mind dreaming out of time, walking on air design, chasing stars, floating on cloud nine. Spirit of electron cloud around the core, waves in the dark, probability war. Every thought a charge, every choice a spark. Oxidation creep when the signal get marked. Antioxidants, hold the line, hold the line. Too much noise in the field, block the shine. Protect the cloud, let the current stay clean. Coherence, the unseen is see you in your chair, but you're miles away. Eyes on the task, heart astray. Static in the chest, data in your veins. Tryna in the field, block the shine. Protect. The cloud, let the current stay clean. Coherence, the unseen is see you in your chair, but you're miles away. Eyes on the task, heart astray. Static in the chest, data in your veins. Tryna find a pattern in the pain.
Once again, I had the joint muted. So what I was saying was, these two guys, right? Even this picture here, the two guys are a part of the Three Ruffians. If y'all read the books, y'all should be familiar with the Three Ruffians by now, right? But these guys back here, they represent ignorance and superstition. Ignorance and superstition are what is putting the inflammation on the heart. So the heart is on fire, representing the inflammation of the heart, as the heart is the number one killer. And from our studies, the number one source of mental illness, right? So, and we go in depth in between the relationship of the heart and mental illness as well, right? But the sister here is our opera singer, right? God is music, right? And in her hand, she has a bottle of the Batana oil. So she's pouring the Batana oil onto the heart to quench the inflammation and restore the heart health as well as the mental health. And the snake behind her represents the vitamin E power behind the Batana oil. The Batana oil is the most powerful, complete vitamin E source that there is. Like, people make a big deal about having complete protein every day. We actually need to transfer that to having complete vitamin E every day, right? We need to change the conversation. But the reason why people don't have a conversation about complete vitamin E is because they want to sell you tocopherols, which are not the most powerful vitamin E. And then also 99% of the Batana oil products that are on the market are toxic, right? They're toxic products. That's why they smell like burnt coffee or burnt chocolate products, because they are toxic waste products. They're not actual pure Batana oil straight from the tree, right? So every part of this video is symbolic, though. There's levels to all of these visuals. that we see here.
Drip, sip, slip, nature drip, head in the clouds, your mind, daydreaming out of time, walking on air design, chasing stars and stars, floating on cloud nine. Static fear trying to hijack the flow. I tune out the chatter, resonance grow. Phase locked heart, sync mind to the code. Frequency right, chaos unfold. Feel stable, no drift in the scene. What's felt in the unseen, rendered in gleam. Observer, aware of the role I play. Collapse intention, manifest today. Shift, change, same page, different sky. You stay, they fade, you still try. Guard your glow like a guarded drive. One clear pose, keep the dream alive. Drip, sip, slip, nature drip, head in the clouds, your mind, daydreaming out of time, walking on air design, chasing stars, chasing stars, floating on cloud nine. Your heart desire is to quench the fire, quench the fire, quench the fire.
Right. So we officially live. The Monk Manual is officially everywhere. Go grab the Monk Manual. That is the third book. I repeat, that is the third book. The first book, right? The first book in that series is at Barnes and Nobles. So if you're looking for that first book, right? It's called Books Are the Food, Songs Are the Vitamins. That's it, Barnes and Nobles. All you got to do is type my name in Barnes and Nobles website. The book pops up. Part 2 and part 3 of the series are on Amazon, right? But the original book, The Irreducible Complexity of the Heart, is on Barnes and Nobles, right? So we're definitely going to jump into a little bit of the book and keep it in the food pocket. We're going to jump into a little bit of the book and keep it in the food pocket since we're here, right? So let's jump in let's jump into the book a little bit, right? Let's talk about food frequency. Now, like I was saying earlier, one of the main topics in the book, there's just a lot of topics that we deal with in this book. This is a really, really, really useful book. That's why I called it a manual. Whenever I use the term manual, it's because you're going to get a lot of use out of the book. It's not something you read one time and then you put it down. It's something that you're going to constantly have to have around, something you'll constantly need with you, friends, family. You may want to have extra copies because they will borrow your monk manual and not give it back. They will borrow your book and not give it back. We talk about a wide variety of topics, but the thing that brings them all together is spirituality, right? So because we're discussing the fast and fasting, right, I want to segue into a conversation on food frequency, right? I want to segue into this conversation on food frequency. Now, well, I'll just read through it. This was going to be a simple mention or two in previous chapters, but HD made me create a separate chapter for this. Now, this is one of the Patreon family members, supporter, and I take the Patreon people very seriously, right? Thank you for all of the Patreon people. You guys, literally, if it wasn't for you guys on Patreon, there would be no Dr. Inky, right? So I had already mentioned this a couple times throughout the book, but I pulled those references and just made a whole chapter because I'm having a conversation with HD, and we kind of going back and forth, like on juicing and blending, right? On juicing and blending. What's the difference between juicing and blending? Because a lot of people are under the impression that I'm a hater when it comes to juicing. Okay. A lot of people are under the impression that I'm a juicing hater. And that's because one or two personalities have labeled me that way, and people, it's stuck because people may not be familiar with my work or my past. I have the gift and the curse of being the longest running Black health teacher in the internet space, right? There's nobody in the internet space that has been doing this longer than I have, right? There is nobody in our modern era that has more published material on these subjects than I have, right? So that is a blessing. That is also a curse sometimes, because there are people, and I'll tell you how it, in this instance, how it's a curse in some ways, because people don't know the full span of my work. So for the people who've been with me the longest, they remember Juicing Inky, where I had like a series of shows, what was it called? I had a few different types of shows. I had the Messy Kitchen. Remember the Messy Kitchen? I don't know. I had a bunch of different shows where juicing was like the main facet, and we'd juice live and mix up the juices and exchange juice formulas and all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like juicing was a thing for a while. Even when we had the school, I was juicing, bottling juices and bringing juices to the school for the children and all that. So I'm very much not a hater in the juicing space, right? At all, right? But you have to realize that when you're juicing, you are throwing away the fiber. You're throwing away the fiber. The pulp is the fiber. You're throwing away the fiber. And the juicing industry was born right? Now, like I said, I go into it more in the book, right? But the juicing industry was born in a time period where blenders was not strong. So that's another thing that you have to put into your mind. And a lot of people that just jumped off the, a lot of these guys on the internet that are getting 50,000 views, 100,000 views, and, whatever the case may be, they just started doing this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. A lot of health teachers popped up during COVID, or just right before, so they don't really remember the growth of this culture into a industry. I'm going to say that again. The growth of this culture turning into an industry. Now people are getting into the health space as a commercial pursuit, when the health space from the time, of thousands of years ago, the health space was always the spiritual space. The health space was always the space you went to for spiritual development, not financial growth. Now it's the space you go into for financial growth, which is the problem. So people don't realize, they haven't seen the process. And that's important to understand, because nowadays the blender can puree. The blender can now puree. The blender can almost turn your vegetables into juice now, because it's so strong. We make soups in the blender. You can cook in a blender. You can cook in a blender. The blender's so strong, it will cook what you put into it. If you leave it in the blender long enough, it will cook it, right? If you have a strong blender, right? And so, I've even done videos on that, showing people the different juicers I've used, comparing different juicers. Yeah, maybe one day I'll bring them out, because I still have a bunch of juices and stuff, even though I don't use them. The blender that I use most of the time now, it's my favorite. It's I forgot the horsepower on this thing. Let me go see what the horsepower on this thing is, and I'll come right back. I'm gonna go check this horsepower real quick.
You need that D, yeah. D, with that blue magic. You need that D, with that blue magic. You need that D, with that blue magic. Theology in a bottle. Calcium electric, I'm magnetic. Your kidney electric, your liver magnetic.
All right, so it's 3 horsepower. The blender I'm using right now is 3 horsepower. You know what I'm saying? That is a very, very, very strong blender. Those did not exist in the 1950s. In the 1950s, those did not exist, right? In the time of Jack LaLanne, those did not exist, right? So that's where my highlighting the negatives of juicing comes in, right? And that's where it gets confused, because people are making, they're doing their commercial pursuits selling juices. So, if their finance is based on selling juices, and selling juices is their gateway to come in and then start selling herbs and other things, when I start telling people, hey, you might want to stop the juicing and start using your blender now, because the blenders, people still have cheaper blenders and Ninjas and things like that, but some of the stronger blenders, can take the place of, and it's no longer a world where, like that blender I got right there, 3 horsepower. I think I paid $150 for that blender, but I do have Vitamixes that I paid, $500 for back in the days when they came out, you know what I'm saying? But the prices went down. right? So there's a time where in order to get a strong blender like that, you had to pay $500 or $600. And people was like, I'm not paying $600 for a blender. That's my car note. I'm not paying car note for a blender. A blender is supposed to be $39.99. I'm not paying no $500 for a blender. Because of my lifestyle, you know, it made sense to me at a time to get one of those. But now you don't have to do that. Those expensive blenders is $150. I mean, high power, $150. You can get a three horsepower or maybe a 2 horsepower blender, right? It's even crazy to discuss blenders in terms of horsepower because that's what they talk about with cars, right? But my thing is, I warned people that we were coming to this station and you know, in the health space and in the health of the country, right? With people being fiber deficient, you know, we were going to have situations and look where we're at now with Ozempic, right? We have a whole entire book series built on rich abs and poor abs. Rich abs being a tight, shapely midsection, poor abs being a loose, fat, inflamed midsection, right? Rich abdomen, poor abdomen, or abdomen rather. Rich abdomen, poor abdomen. And, you know, we created a whole series on it, but the Ozempic craze is based on a fiber deficient society, right? So again, we do have books on that. Let me see if I can find one of these books to show you. And of course, I don't know where it is right now. Of course, I don't know where it is right now when I need to show you where the book is. I'm excited about this though. I just got mine in the mail. Oh my God. I'm so excited about that book right there. I'm so excited. Okay, I don't know where it is. It's probably on my bed. Yeah, it's probably on my bed. But anyway, the Rich Abs, Poor Abs book, we go into all of the different. I'm mad I can't find it. As soon as I stop looking for it, it's going to pop right up. All right. Fiber gets converted to specific fatty acids, and those fatty acids Chef Will is in the building. Okay, so I don't know what y'all missed. I was saying all kind of stuff. Yo, I don't know what y'all missed. I was saying all kind of good stuff. Did y'all even hear me reading the book or talking about the book? Did y'all hear any of that? Did y'all hear me talking about the horsepower from the blender? Hold on. I need y'all to tap in. Did y'all hear me talk about the horsepower from the blender? Is that the last thing y'all heard? Okay, good. Okay, so y'all heard the horsepower from the blender. Okay, good. So, okay, from the fiber. Okay, good. Oh, when I put the mic down, I must have hit the button. Okay, cool. All right, so y'all heard everything. Good. All right, so y'all didn't miss much. All right, so fiber, when our body consumes fiber. Will, let me know if you want to come in. Let me know if you want to come in. Because I could bring you back into the video if you want to jump back in. But so fiber gets converted into fatty acids, and those fatty acids get converted into GLP-1 agonists. So what I'm saying is Ozempic and all of the products like Ozempic, they would never exist if America was on a high fiber diet. Nobody would need to purchase those things because your body is producing them naturally. So when I start telling people that we're throwing away the fiber by doing all that juicing, you know what I'm saying? People didn't take it serious. You know, they just throwing it in the garbage. They didn't realize that one man's garbage is another man's treasure. Literally. Trillions of dollars have been generated over the past few years now, you know, into the billions, into the trillions. It'll be if it ain't trillions yet, it's going there, right? Ozempic and Ozempic type products are going to become $1 trillion business on their own, right? Just because of the fact that we are in a fiber deficient society, right? Your body is already equipped to produce all the GLP-1 agonists that you need. Oh, man, I appreciate that, bro. Yeah. I definitely appreciate that. Shout out to Chef Will tapping back in with us. He said it's day one. Listen, my box is halfway empty. I already started knocking off some greens earlier. I woke up and got right to it. So I got chlorophyll blood. My blood is green right now. Now, okay, yeah, so that's what we on. That's exactly where we at. So just to pick up, we're in the new book right now. And in the new book, we kind of having this discussion right here. And I was telling the story of, you know, where the conversation has sparked between me and one of my supporters, HD. Like our good brother from Philly, she likes to remain nameless. You know what I'm saying? So our good brother from Philly that we have in common, he's the one who actually called me an urban monk so many times that it actually stuck. So he came up with the name years ago. But yeah, so the main difference between juicing and blending is that with the juicing, you're getting rid of the fiber. With the blending, you're keeping all of the fiber intact and most of the pigment, right? Because if you notice, when you throw away the pulp is rich in pigment. There's a lot of color in that fiber. That's all pigment. That's all nutrients, right? So you're getting rid of a lot of fiber and a lot of pigment. Now, I will say, right, and the title of the chapter in the book, for the people that get the book, the title of the chapter that I have this discussion in is called Food Frequency, right? Because food frequency is the secret to why juicing is so powerful, right? And I don't want to harp on the fact that you lose a lot of fiber and pigment to the point where, again, people think I'm a hater of juicing, because I'm not, right? What juicing does is juicing allows you to catch up on redox, right? So here's the benefit to juicing and why juicing is better than blending, right? So we establishing why blending is better than juicing. Blending is better than juicing for pigment and fiber content, right? Now, here's the reason why juicing is better than blending. Now, obviously, you want to have the best of both worlds, right? So we'll get to that in a second. But the reason why juicing is better than blending is for redox, right? Redox is short for reduction and then oxidation, right? Reduction and oxidation. Now, this was my cheat code back in the days. Back in the days, this was my cheat code, right? Before you had a bunch of Dr. Inky videos and all of my spin-off students, you know, that have now become teachers in their own platforms or whatever the case may be. You only really had folks like Dr. Sebi saying that the body was electric. Dr. Africa wasn't on that. Dr. Africa was on melanin. And Dr. Sebi's dissing melanin was his way to diss, you know, Dr. Africa and whatever the case may be. But Dr. Africa based his holistic health around melanin and pigment. Dr. Sebi, on the other hand, based his program around redox, even though he never used the word, because Dr. Sebi wasn't really studying like that, right? But the fact that he talked about alkalinity and acid, and the fact that he talked about the body being electric means that Dr. Sebi was discussing redox, right? And because Dr. Sebi never used the term redox, the people who wanted more information on what Sebi was talking about were never able to find it, right? I was one of those people, so I know. And Dr. Sebi would never give you more information. And those of us that studied Dr. Sebi, we thought it was because, you know, like he was just a salesman or he was being secretive or whatever. No, he didn't know, because he didn't get the information this way. He got the information through practice, right? He had some stuff going on with him. He saw a herbalist down in in Mexico, I believe. And the Mexican told him what plants to use to heal him, reverse some conditions. And then he started to share that information. He didn't go the technical way of studying the cells and, you know, ion transfer and all of this kind of stuff, right? So he wasn't necessarily big in that space. But for me, the way my mind worked, I needed the information that way, right? So I realized that in textbooks, they were hiding the truth that what Dr. Sebi and Robert O. Becker and others in that space were saying was 100% true, right? The body is electric to an extent, right? The body is electric to an extent. It's electric, it's magnetic, it's luminous, right? But that information is hidden under redox, right? So you won't find a scholastic textbook on the body's electric, but you will find biochemical books on redox, right? And redox is how electricity is circulated in the body, right? Typically, redox is going to be associated with electrons, and oxidation is going to be associated with protons, right? Even though you can explain them backwards and forwards, right? So Reduction typically is what we would consider in the holistic space alkaline, right? Even though that's not the right way to use the term, but that's how we would look at that, right? So reduction is adding electrons. You're adding electrons. You're increasing electricity, right? Oxidation is adding protons or removing electrons, right? So redox is about the flow of charge inside the cellular and subcellular environment, right? And without going too crazy, that is the world that cancer, autoimmune disease, HIV and things like that, that is the pocket of redox issues, right? I mean, there's a plethora. I don't want you to seem like if you don't have cancer, you straight. Like, no. There's a range from even functioning, healthy people that look amazing and, they still have redox that they can work on and improve, right? But the maximum underlying malfunctioning conditions, that's where you have these issues, right? So for people that are looking for healing in that capacity, right, juicing offers the super cheat code advantage. Why? Because when you're making a juice, I'm gonna make sure my mic is on. If I hear my phone vibrate, I gotta make sure my mic is on. But if I hear, if I hear my phone vibrate, because I know when I touch it, right, I did that on purpose, right? But what happens is your redox system, right? And we have a book on it. We have a book on all these subjects, right? But we have a book called Osiris, Diabetes, and Respiration, right? And in that book, we kind of unveil our theory about the uncoupling of respiration and metabolism, right? Your respiratory system has to stay coupled to your metabolism. And what I mean by that is breathing has to stay coupled to eating. When your breathing pattern starts to separate itself from your eating pattern, that's when the disease system starts to creep in. And this is why so many different diseases are tied to your metabolism, right? The problem with metabolism is kind of tricky the way it's set up. When you think metabolism, you think digestion. When you think metabolism, you think digestion, right? But metabolism is actually breathing, which is where the problem comes in, right? Metabolism is breathing because breathing is digestion. That's where it gets. So imagine me as a teenager. Y'all have the cheat code. I'm your cheat code. I got thousands of hours of videos, been teaching this for decades, books everywhere, people that done learned from me, done started their own stuff, all these places. So the landscape of information has changed. But back in the 90s, this information didn't exist. So I'm trying to figure this stuff out, right? And I'm like starting by scratch. I'm like, okay, let me just do this logically. Let me get some textbooks and let me just follow a sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Let me just follow a sandwich. Let me follow a burger. Let me follow a salad, right? Let me follow some greens. What happens from the time I chew up some food to the time, it comes out, like, let me follow some food all the way through and so I would notice this anomaly, and this kind of opened up a lot of doors for me, right? You can follow food from, salivary glands and, mastication and, the enzymes and, certain enzymes work for this and different pH and boom. and the fluid in the stomach, and it's proton rich, and you get all these details, and you following this, and portal vein this way, and colon, you get all this info, and digestion stops at a certain point. Like once the food is broken down and it gets to the blood, it stops. There was no textbooks that went and kept going. Like it just stopped. I was like, what? And then all of a sudden you got some textbooks on like mitochondria and tricarboxylic acid cycle, Krebs cycle, beta oxidation, and all this stuff. But all of these things come up under another title. These don't come up under metabolism. They come up under cellular respiration. So I realized the end of digestion ends in cellular respiration. So that even in and of itself made me realize that go back to the theological text, God, spirit, meditation, prayer, all of those things, because that is the space where they teach you about the breath, the potency of the breath, why the breath is important, why the breath is what controls life, and blah, 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 blah. All that's in theological text and spiritual text. Biochemical text, they just like, oh yeah, you breathing, and it's not really driving home the importance. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying all that to say that's how my mind opened, and I realized I had to go into some other spaces to get a much more well-rounded view of the problem that we face in terms of energy metabolism, right? It's not taught in a well-rounded, in a holistic way, right? Because the breath is digestion. The breath is what it all comes down to. Because when you break down those carbohydrates and, fats also, beta oxidation, you convert the fats to carbohydrates basically. So when you break down those carbohydrates, you have to turn those carbon atoms into carbon dioxide. That is the key. And so for every carbon you break down, you're going to need 2 oxygens. And your sugar units are six carbon chains. So that means you need 12 oxygens for every sugar molecule, right? You need 12 oxygens for every sugar molecule. 12 oxygens for every sugar molecule. So your breathing and your eating have to stay coupled. When your breathing becomes slower than your eating, because you eating, right? The energy cannot be produced, right? The energy cannot be produced. You cannot metabolize sugar without oxygen. So one of the things subconsciously, or I should say that we do that we're unaware of, because subconscious is another one of those chakra things, doesn't really exist. But one of the things that we do that we're unaware of is when we exercise, we automatically speed up our breath rate. We speed up our breath rate, which is why more and more athletes are beginning to measure their physical fitness by VO2 max efficiency, right? So anyway, all I said to say, back to redox, right? Back to redox. Your body was designed to get in carbohydrates, photosynthesis, right? That's greens, right? Carbohydrates, photosynthesis, not cookies, not all this rice and pasta and all of these different things that we've created over time, right? This is what we were designed for. This is how the body was designed. Now, what we have developed our palate to and our chemical addictions and all that, that's on us, right? But that's how the system is designed. Photosynthesis happens in the leaves of plants. That's what we're supposed to be consuming for energy, right? When we do that, we uncouple ourselves, from chlorophyll, And chlorophyll actually is another pigment. It's a pigment that you have to eat, though, right? And so that's one of the things that we talk about in this book, our theory. And it's a theory we developed. Again, it's in the autodidact book. That chlorophyll is a pigment that your body requires. Like, it should be a required nutrient daily that you have chlorophyll, because chlorophyll stays active in your blood, and chlorophyll stays active when it lodges itself in your fat. So your fat stores actually can become green, and green fat stores work different than your regular fat stores. So we've had conversations about white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. You have a bunch of people on the internet talking about cold baths and cold showers and all this other kind of foolishness. That's really a makeup for not having enough chlorophyll every day to turn that white adipose, to start turning it green, right? And I know that may sound crazy to some folks, but anyway, we're devoid of chlorophyll, right? Because we're also devoid of chlorophyll, we're also chronically devoid of magnesium, right? Fiber, magnesium, chlorophyll all come from the plants. All come from the plants. If we got enough plant matter in every day, we'd have enough fiber, enough chlorophyll, enough magnesium, right? But we don't. So now, the beauty of, and it messes with our redox, right? Because our tricarboxylic acid cycle, Krebs cycle, mitochondria function, all of those things are tuned to this. This is what they're tuned to. Your mitochondria and all that is tuned for things that look like this. Things that look like this, right? Leaves. This is what photosynthesis is happening at in these. So your mitochondria and all of that is tuned to those things, right? It's tuned to them. As we get away from that, and we get away from exercise, we get away from walking, we get away from isometrics and calisthenics, and we start to do things like a gym is not a natural thing. It is a development. It is a synthetic space that we've created to recreate the normal everyday action that we would take and move our bodies, right? So we're supplementing nature, right? And as we're doing that, we're forgetting that nature exists. We're forgetting the natural processes, right? So getting the juice in allows you to make up for lost time. Right. And of course, we have another book on time. Right. And the reason why we have a book on time is because inside your cells, time is different than it is in our world. So, it kind of alludes to that in the Bible. It says like it gives you a reference, like 1,000 days is one day to God or something to that effect. But that is the perspective of our time to cellular time. Right. We're looking at watches and setting our time on 24. Cells don't do that. Cells' time is based on resource management. Right. So the more resources a cell has to do its job, the more time it has, the more youthful it is. As resources are consumed, the cell ages. It's very simple. Right. So our cells are going through advanced aging because they don't have the resources, right? Because there's a very specific frequency, right? Frequency that we're supposed to consume these foods at, right? And so even on a basic level, right? Even on a basic level, right? Most people know you have water vitamins and you have fat vitamins, right? Right. And I'm just using these for example so that your whole body works like this. but you have water vitamins and fat vitamins, right? Water soluble vitamins you got to take all the time. You know, every few hours. Those hours could be anywhere from 6 to 24 hours, right? You need to replace your water soluble vitamins, right? And these are the vitamins, your B's and your C's. Yeah, B's and C's. The Bloods and the Crips. The Bloods and the Crips are vitamins, right? High casualty rate. You have to replace them all the time, right? Your fat soluble vitamins, right? Your A, D, K, E, F, right? Those vitamins you don't have to replace, right? These you need to take days to weeks, right? So the frequency that you consume them is different, right? The frequency that you consume them is different, right? Now, why is the frequency different? Because they have different roles in the body. Fat soluble vitamins are for structure. Water soluble vitamins are for energy. Now, when you look deeply at the water soluble vitamins, you'll notice that some of them is used for structure. And then when you look deeply in the fat soluble vitamins, you see some of them is used for energy. That's because you're doing too much. No, seriously. All of the water soluble vitamins, they have energy-based purposes, but energy in your body is designed to create structure. The structures in your body are created from energy. The structures everywhere in our world are created from energy. An atom is a unit of energy, right? The structures in your body are made to house energy. Energy flows through and around the structures in the body, right? So that's what all of these vitamins are for, right? Vitamin F you get in stuff like shea butters and things like that, right? Which is why people have used shea butter for a zillion years for their skin and hair. It is a vitamin that people are missing, right? Vitamin E, which is slowly but surely becoming my favorite, right? The octave, right? Vitamin E swims in all of the membranes of your cells, which literally every single part of your body is made up of cells, which are made up of membrane, and make sure that they stay electric. So vitamin E is like vitamin electric. Vitamin K is for your blood and your microbiome. Vitamin D is for cholesterol, is for calcium, and is for iron. That's why the technical name of vitamin D is cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol. That's chola for cholesterol, calci for calcium, and ferrol for iron. Vitamin A is for your pigment in your nervous system. That's what vitamin A is for. Vitamin A is for your pigment cells and your neurons, right? Because pigment cells and neurons actually come from the same layer of germ cells in the embryo. They come from the same stem cell line, right? Vitamin C is kind of on its own. It does its own thing, right? Vitamin C mimics. It looks like it's like a 6-carbon chain, just kind of like glucose. So that's why I think vitamin C is over here with the water soluble vitamins. Plus, it's a water soluble, it's water soluble. So you have to replace it all the time. But vitamin C actually helps to build bones and collagen, and right. It's it provides a piezoelectric piece, like that piece with the magnetic. That's like the piece with the piezoelectric. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like the piece with the piezoelectric. So vitamin C is important for energy processing of structure. Structures in your body that are piezoelectric produce energy. Vitamin C is required to build all of those structures, right? So, but this is frequency, right? This is a frequency. Every 6 to 24 hours. A frequency is a time interval. It is a cycle. That's what a frequency means. Frequency doesn't mean your chakras is vibrating at the highest frequency. Frequency is a cycle of when something happens, right? So, you know, if you eat 3 times a day, that is a frequency, right? You're creating a frequency of when you're giving your cells, you know, whatever you're giving them. You know, your macros, for instance, you know, your sugars, fats, and proteins. Your cells get into a rhythm, right? And even starvation, right? Because there are natural rhythms where your cells require resources, going back to the time of cells. And I was saying that there's a book that we have called the Movement Book. There's a book that we have called the Movement Book. And in that book, we discuss time. And people some people really love the book. And some people kind of misunderstood the book because it's in the middle of a bunch of health books. And it's like, why is Inky talking about time and watches and watchmaking and all this other stuff? We should be talking about health information. I'm like, well, that is the health information, right? Because you have to understand the cycles of the human body based on the cycles of the planets and the stars, which center around our home star, the sun, which is why the study of life began with the study of astrology or astronomy per se, right? The study of the stars, the study of the movement of the stars and the planet and the relationship of the two, right? Even photosynthesis, our food chain begins with our sun, right? It begins with our home star. What our sun is made out of, hydrogen, is the thing that we use for energy. Hydrogen is what we're breaking down, right? So as we're recycling the carbon from carbohydrates, the hydrate part, the hydrogen part, is what we actually break into electrons and protons that then do all of the redox, and the circulating in the mitochondria to recycle water and ATP, right? That is the same thing that the sun does. The sun splits hydrogen atoms into electrons and protons and creates all of the light and energy we see from the sun. It is hydrogen being split that then is turned into, you know, helium and this one and that one. But all of the magic starts with the breaking down of hydrogen into electrons and protons, which is the very same process replicated in every one of our cells. Somehow our ancestors knew that thousands of years ago, right? But anyway, zoo, reel it in. See, I enjoy this. So it's easy for me to get lost. I'm the segue champion. So back to the reason why juices are better than smoothies. Because to make a cup of juice, right? To make a cup of juice, I'm going to need large amounts of vegetables. So I can go through 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds of vegetables, and that might just be 3 or 4 juices, right? But that is me being able to catch up on days, maybe weeks, maybe months of starving my body of the daily nutrients that I'm supposed to have, the daily relationship I'm supposed to have with the sun, the daily relationship I'm supposed to have with the plants, because that relationship is carried on through photosynthesis, through the Krebs cycle, right? And so when we're having breads and sandwiches and burgers and cookies and cakes and all of those things, we separate ourselves from the sun. We separate ourselves from the plants, right? And disease follows, right? So one of the things that people have noticed is returning. A lot of times you are not so far gone that if you come back into the fold, you cannot experience some healing. And juicing allows you to do that by concentrating the amount of vegetables you consume at one time. Yes, you miss some fiber and some pigment, but you get a condensed blast of nutrition because of the sheer volume. You can go through literally garbage bags of vegetables in a matter of days by juicing. You know, when you hit the blender, you're going to put ice in the blender, you know, because smoothie, you got to have, you know, so you're only going to be able to put maybe a handful or two vegetables, you know, greens or whatever in your smoothie and blend that up. Whereas with a juicer, you literally going to be putting boxes or bags of greens in there, and you're going to get a condensed amount of nutrition and be able to turn back the time, turn back the hands of time for your cells that way. Now, why that for me is particularly useful with people with extreme conditions, because people that are dealing with autoimmune diseases or cancer, usually they don't have an appetite. They don't have an appetite, and they need an appetite in order for you to get stuff in there to try to do some, you know, to do, you know, to reverse some of the damage. You know, you need them to try to consume the healthy stuff. But my personal thoughts on that is that you have fed your body toxic material so long, your body is like, nah, we good. The last thing we need is for you to feed us anything else. So the appetite is gone. So you have a very limited appetite, which makes a very limited window for people to try to get nutrition in their most vulnerable stage when they need it. So in that scenario, juicing is even more valuable because I can get the most amount of nutrition in at that time. And fiber is not needed for somebody who is losing weight every day anyway, because they're not eating, right? So we can sacrifice the fiber, right? Because they're not going to have any solid food anyway, really. So the drinking, so we can sacrifice the fiber in those scenarios, right? But that's extreme. People with cancer or AIDS or autoimmune or, you know, end stage lupus and stuff like that. That's extreme, right? For the most part, we need balance. We need both, right? We need the benefit of the concentrated nutrition, which juicing offers, and we need the benefit of the fiber and the full pigment spectrum, the color and the vibrance that a blender offers us, right? So we need to mix the two. Now, the other thing is social programming when it comes down to juicing versus blending, is social programming. And what I mean by social programming is this. If we close our eyes, right? If we all close our eyes and we imagine, those of us that have the power to visualize something in our mind, if we close our mind and visualize a juice, two things appear. A, the juice is green, right? And the juice is not too tasty. It's kind of nasty. It's kind of bitter. You know what I'm saying? That's how you know it's on the alkaline side. So we visualize a juice. It's all veggies and it's kind of nasty, right? Now, if we close our eyes and we visualize a smoothie, the texture is thick. It reminds us of a milkshake. It's sweet. You know, we automatically associate delicious with it, right? So our social programming of a juice versus a smoothie is also a barrier we got to break through, right? Because a lot of times the smoothie industry is driven by powder and sugar. The smoothie industry is driven by powders and sugars, protein powders, green powders, mangoes, dates, maple syrup, you name it. You know, high fructose corn syrup disguised as whatever. Like, it's a sugar-driven thing, right? So it's really like the 7-Eleven Frosty. You know what I'm saying? And we're fooling ourselves to believe that we're making something healthy. A lot of times the smoothie is a killer, right? A lot of times the smoothie is a killer, right? And that's where I wanted to show y'all this. Now, my children get these in school, right? And I don't hate. You know what I'm saying? Because it could be a Pepsi, right? But I want to show y'all these. I do not want y'all to think that this is a green juice. Yes, this technically is a green juice. It's sold as a green juice, but this is not really a green juice. This is loaded with sugarness, right? These things, these products flooding the market are part of the problem, right? These things are part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at it, it shows you how much greens is in it, and it's spirulina and green this and broccoli and boom, 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 boom. And it tells you all these numbers. And people, that is not the same as a real fresh juice. Just like when we had Chef Will on yesterday, breaking down the reason why he used fresh in-season vegetables. It's just no comparison of a actual fresh green juice to something like that you purchase for $3 or $4. And don't let the price fool you. Just, oh, these expensive. I paid $4 for this. You know, it's not the same. It's not the same universe, right? And so we have to break down that social construction, because a lot of that is just commercial, right? Who benefits? Commercial interests, right? The same people that own the pharmaceutical companies are the same people that own the sugar and refreshment and juice, soda. You know, these are all owned. Pepsi or let me look it up. Let's look it up. Because I believe it's Pepsi or Coca-Cola is actually who's selling this. I believe it's Pepsi or Coca-Cola who's selling this. And we believe it's something else. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so let's go over here. Right? Let's go on over here. Boo. Let's go back to our share screen. Now, this is the book that we're discussing right now. So if you don't have this book, which you probably don't because it just came out, go and order this book. I could be wrong, so I don't want to talk crazy and be wrong. So we just gonna look it up and see. Right, Boathouse Farms. Okay, there we go. Campbell Soup. Campbell Soup. And now it is sold to Butterfly Equity. Who is Butterfly Equity? Oh, there you go. Private equity company. So we don't know. We don't get to know who that is. We don't get to know who that is. But we know once it go through Campbell Soup, that's pretty much it right there. Once it goes through Campbell, that is pretty much it right there. Oh my goodness. Let me go get my battery. Let me go get my let me go get my charger. I'll be right back.
In the beginning was the way was God, the way was God, the way was hard. Every step erase injury. I'm the divine epiphany.
I love Dr. Enki. Dr. Enki. I love Dr. Enki.
Yo. American Hiller. Talk to him. Hey, and I'm ballin', not for profit. I'm a prophet, you know he got it. And I'm ballin', not for profit. I'm a prophet, you know he got it. And I'm ballin', not for profit. I'm a prophet, you know he got it. And I'm ballin', not for profit. I'm a prophet, you know he got it. Hormone jump, blood flow rush, brain work sharp, that steel cut hush. Muscle strength up, whole frame turn savage, sex magic in the cut, big fertility package. Heart disease back down, we block no plots, fibroid shrink, cancer rate drop, memory locked in cognition on 10, we healing in the world they pay. Amen. Pure knowledge in the vein, this a new aesthetic, flip food and medicine, bioenergetic. Plan genetics, said it 3 times, let it say it. Plan genetics, hit the source. That's the real weapon. Get the book in your cart, that's a mission. Amazon move quick, instant transmission. I'm a Mason in the lab, blueprint in the kitchen. Anabolic hormone help stay up, stay driven. Get the D in your day, keep your bones all sturdy. Get the blue magic in your body, glow skin purdy. Eat American Healer menu, every bite new sermon. Forward to the face, that's a lifestyle learning. Anabolic, not for profit, I'm a prophet, you know he got it. Anabolic, not for profit, I'm a prophet, you know he got it. Soil to the cell, transformation from the plate to the brain.
Okay, hold on. You said Pepsi, right? It's not Pepsi. That's what I was thinking. But I know Pepsi owns Naked. So the Naked drinks, which is the Bolthouse competitor, is owned by Pepsi. So I was thinking Coca-Cola must own Bolthouse, right? But the bottom line is it is the big processing food companies, because these are processed foods, right? These are considered to be processed foods, right? This is a processed food. All right, this is a processed food. So again, we want to break out of that cultural norm, which tells us, you know, that fruits and sugars and syrups go in the blender to make a smoothie, right? You can load up your blender with vegetables, right? You can create some balance. Instead of having milk, powdered milk, you know, whey protein, you can use hemp products, right? There's a lot of different things you can do to change the landscape of what goes on with the blender, right? So we used to have a lot of smoothie recipes that was, you know, kind of similar to juicing recipes, like just putting a lot of vegetables in the blender. You know what I'm saying? Putting a lot of vegetables in the blender. I started off, though, when I didn't have the strong blenders, because the blenders was insane pricing and all that. What I started off doing was juicing, and I would save my pulp. Now, this is a cheat code. I wouldn't throw away the pulp. I would put the pulp in Ziploc bags, and I would take the juice and put the juice into the blender. I would add some pulp into that. So I would get some of the pigment and the fiber, and I would blend what I just juiced, right? And then I would add stuff to that. I would add some fruits and whatever to my juice to change the taste, primarily because I was doing this for my children. And then later on, I would use that as a blueprint when I got to school for all of the children in the school, right? Because they're not used to the bitter taste. So I would add some red apples or some green apples or some stuff like that in the blender, maybe a couple of mango chunks or whatever the case may be to the juice, and game changer, right? And then I would make desserts out of the pulp. So we used to do a lot of vegan cheesecake, I would do a lot of vegan cheesecake. I haven't made a vegan cheesecake in a long time. I might make one soon. I might make a vegan cheesecake, right? Just because I'm thinking about it now. We haven't had vegan cheesecake in a minute, right? And part of it is because it's time consuming, but the other part is because the price of nuts has went through the roof. Nuts is crazy now. And it's basically a nut product. Pause in advance, relax. I know you're going crazy, but it's a nut product, right? And so you blend up the nuts in the smoothie. You know, you make your base. Your base is going to be primarily like dates and walnuts, stuff like that. That's going to be your base, the bottom of your cheesecake. Maybe some raisins or something. You're adding a little flavor to it. But dates primarily is the driver of your base. And then your actual cheesecake part is going to be, cashews and lemon and things like that. You're going to add to that. And then what we would do is to that part, we will put a lot of we would empty whatever bags of juice pulp that I have into the blending mix for the cheesecake. So it'll add some coloring and some fiber and some other stuff to it. And it'll just be delicious. You know what I'm saying? Turn it into dessert. So there's cheat codes of how you can not waste that pigment and that fiber and do something nutritious with it. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we made some sense today, right? But that's what I was talking about in the book in terms of the difference between the juicing and the juicing and blending. The difference between juicing and blending, right? Juicing has a much, much greater impact on redox because you get a much, much more nutrient dense blast because you're juicing a lot more vegetables. And because you are behind the 8 ball on nutrition and you have a shorter, smaller appetite in extreme conditions, juicing is the number one go-to, right? But people with metabolic issues on the flip side, diabetes and heart disease and high A1C numbers and obesity and all of this crazy stuff, you need the fiber. You need the fiber, right? You can't afford to lose no fiber. This is why people are getting shots of Ozempic. So, always dietary journey is a personal mission. It's always a personal mission. But our plant genetics book, plant genetics. The plant genetics. Oh my goodness. I don't even know. We're going to have to carve out a separate space. We got so many classes we're supposed to be doing. We're going to have to carve out a separate space for plant genetics. I don't know how or when or what. Where am I going to put this? Maybe this will be like a Saturday or Sunday. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know we're going to rip into this book. This is what every plant-based, vegan, herbalist, holistic, this is the book you've been waiting for your whole life to come. This is it. This is it. Because I know I've been waiting for my whole life to put something like this together. And it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. You don't have this, you're really missing something. You are really missing something. This is crazy. Like literally. I mean, we turn the subjects of alkaloids, terpenoids, phenolics, glycosides, essential oils, polysaccharides, steroids, acids, ligands, metabolite. Like, we take each and every different, like, and we turn it upside down on his head, all the way from the unseen, all the way from the world of the unseen, right? Which your recent ancestors would have referred to as the Elohim, which your distant ancestors would have referred to as the Necharu, which your modern ancestors just call indiscriminately energy, all the way to how those things formulate atoms. Those atoms formulate compounds and molecules. Those compounds and molecules are stored in plants, and we use them for therapeutic agents, whether they are health foods or medicine synthesized from them. We break it all the way down. Like, I mean, this is just crazy. This is just crazy. This book should be $150. This book should be $150. The price is going to go up on this book. I'm telling y'all that for sure. This book should be $150 because this is a collegiate level textbook. So nobody is offering anything close to this for less than $100, and definitely not less than $50. So I would tell y'all to get these now before the price goes up. The price is going to go up on these plant genetics books. So you need to get these books. But definitely feel free to join us on the fast. Definitely feel free to join us on the fast. Will said he going in for 10 days. I told Will, I don't know if I'm going in for 10 days. But the monk fast, you know, the way I do it, you can do it from anywhere from 8 hours, you know, just less than a day, right? All the way up to, you know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. You know, it just depends on your lifestyle. You know, you can benefit from just switching out even just one meal. One meal that might be fast food that you regularly have. That's a part of your regular frequency. When you eat this meal, you may get this meal from McDonald's or White Castles, whatever, 7 days a week. Or you getting chopped cheese or whatever from the Arabs down at the corner store or whatever. Or you getting a Philly cheesesteak from wherever. And, you know, if you switch that out, that one meal will have a benefit. That one meal you change will have a benefit. That is changing the frequency of your biochemistry. That's changing the frequency of your redox, because you're getting in a lot more nutrition and you're getting in a lot less inflammatory products at the same time, right? So that one rhythm changes a biorhythm, which has a domino effect. And so all of those things you can see a pronounced effect from. So the on-the-spot fast is a way to get some in real-time biochemical changes, but at the same time, some mental, some spiritual, some clarity to help you accomplish and knock out some goals and whatever that looks like, whether that's a relationship thing, whether that's a financial thing, you know, whether that's a health thing. We all have our personal goals and the reason why we want to tune up, right? We all have the reasons why we want to tune up. So carrot hot dogs is wild. Carrot hot dogs is not real hot dogs. Listen, we was talking about that last. Our show last night was crazy. I can't hold y'all. we talked about a lot of things in that window. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's gonna get crazier over time. Carrot hot dogs is one of those things. Carrots should not be turned into hot dogs. I am not a fan of turning a carrot into a hot dog. I don't think that you can turn a carrot properly into a hot dog. Like that is not supposed to happen. Mushroom steaks is sweeping the globe. Mushroom steaks is delicious. A carrot hot dog, you trolling. you trolling. As a food company, I just want you to know these food companies is trolling. They are wilding. These food companies are making things that they don't eat. They're not eating carrot hot. The owner of these food companies not eating carrot hot dogs. They're not putting ketchup and mustard on a carrot and putting that in a bun. They're not doing that, right? But they know that there's a market. I'm dead. Yo, they know. Yo, listen, it's some things that works because, listen, a large part of what we consider to be taste is texture, right? A large part of taste is texture. We didn't even get into that last night, but Will did go into the aromatics, right? So you have the olfactory system, which controls taste, and you have texture, which plays a big role in controlling our sense of taste, right? So texture-wise, there are things that align, and you may just add some seasoning or reshape it so it gives you the vibe of, you know, an animal product. But texture-wise, no, sir. They are wilding. They are wilding by making carrots into glizzies. Carrots should not be glizzies in any shape, form, or fashion. There should be no carrot glizzies. No carrot glizzies. Yeah, there should be no carrot glizzies. That is crazy.
Rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, 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 over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay. Beatles,
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.